Welcome back to another episode of the 7th grade Mustache. Today's discussion will center around Attack the Black. And this one is Attack the Black Child. We'd like to talk about ways in which we've seen the psyche of the black child attacked, manipulated, and controlled through media and social programming. We've seen many examples within the media, both past and present. Little black kids grow up with images fed into their subconscious through television, music, and any other type of mainstream media. And so these kids grow up with an idea of what good and evil is, or even the nature of reality truly is. And so they grow up with these ideas, and they become adults within society that have been manipulated to think certain things which may not be true.
What they're doing is by controlling your expectations and controlling your desires and controlling these different things, they keep you from actually being a threat. This is the best way to keep us from being a threat to the dominant society. It's very important that you recognize that things that happen aren't by accident. Social media is a prime example. Everybody wants to be a celebrity. Instagram models, you got men and women, you got men posing like women, women naked all the time just for attention. You become such an attention-grabbing individual, attention whore, if you will, that you don't really understand what reality is. And our children are looking up to these different people. We have celebrities. When I grew up, to be a celebrity, you had to have talent. You had to have something to offer. And me and you've talked about this 1,000 times over, that nowadays celebrities, Kim Kardashian is famous for being famous. I thought she had put out the sex tape with Ray J before the show, but apparently the show and the tape aired around the same time. That's not by accident. That's by design. So she's not famous for having a talent. She's literally famous for doing negative behavior.
Kids look up to her.
And people look up to her, not just children. But that's another problem when you talk about unrealistic expectations. You have moms watching this show with their daughters, and her mother is on there. Her mother is one of the most amazing people I've ever met, because I never met her. And you sit here and watch this woman who was married to OJ's lawyer. Now the rumor is Chloe is OJ's daughter. You know, that's an actual rumor that Kardashian didn't care. Then she marries Jenner. And all of a sudden he wants to be a partial woman because he still has a penis. And she has wrecked more men's lives than anybody else I know.
Listen, this has zero to do with black kids.
No,
okay? No. Here's the thing, man. Here's the thing. Little black kids right now grow up indoors. They're growing up weaker than they have been ever.
But see, you're talking about physical, but you're also going to mean
that's psychological too.
And that's my point. By looking up to the wrong things, these kids watch these reality shows, and they think the word reality is the most important part of that conversation, this show. As long as you are impressed by people who are unimpressive, you have these problems. You have unrealistic expectations. How many of these kids think they're going to be LeBron James?
Dude, listen. We were way more physical as children than this current generation of children. If you look at the cartoons these kids are watching, it's some watered down, pussy ass bullshit. Just keep it real.
But hold it. See, that's because the people are so weak. I remember, which one of these presidents or vice presidents we had? His wife messed up cartoons for him. No, it was the other one. The wife messed up cartoons because she was the one pushing that we couldn't watch certain cartoons.
Nancy Reagan?
No, it was after her. And I didn't even know what was going on, because by that time me and you had kind of got too old. G.I. Joe had changed, so we stopped watching G.I. Joe Transformers because they started messing up the damn storylines, like Headmasters and all that kind of bullshit.
Oh, yeah.
But come to find out, a big part of that wasn't because the writers were bad. It was because they couldn't show people getting shot and things, and so they had to change that. And the point I'm trying to make is that They think it's necessary for them to water down cartoons so kids don't hurt people. We grew up watching Bugs Bunny. We grew up watching the most violent cartoons imaginable.
Before G.I. Joe, before Thundercats and He-Man, 100%. All that shit.
Not a day went by when I seen somebody get an anvil dropped on their head. Do you know I was 25 before I actually saw an anvil? I didn't see an anvil, so I'm like, that's an anvil. Mm-hmm. That thing is mighty heavy. That's messed up.
That would really fuck you up.
Yeah.
It fell on you.
It fell on your foot, fell on your head.
Right. But we saw this. That was old cartoons. That shit was old when we was little kids.
Now looking back, there were people like to say cartoons were racist. Well, bigoted. And I would sit there and watch Slowpoke Rodriguez. Remember Speedy Gonzalez had a homeboy, Slowpoke Rodriguez. Mm-hmm. Now, what do you remember about Slowpoke?
He was a Mexican.
He was slow, but he carried a what? A 44.
Right.
Nobody messed with Slowpoke. But Slowpoke wasn't slow. Slowpoke was high. Looking back, Slowpoke was baked. You understand this stuff now.
Yeah.
Same thing with Shaggy, the big green monster, Scooby Snacks. And so...
he had the munchies all the time.
So when you watch these shows... as an adult, like they got a little bit of closet humor, but the fact of the matter was, as a child, I knew it was entertainment, and not once did I try to do some of that stuff. Now, I will admit this: I thought if you ran fast enough, your legs would spin around. That doesn't happen.
It doesn't.
But in what you're pointing out is that kids are so detached.
Parents have nerfed the world. Nerfed. But listen, for people who don't know what Nerf is, Nerf was a foam toy that was a football or a baseball
or a sword
or even guns, and they were made of foam. So when a person says they're trying to nerf the world, it means parents are making it overly safe with no sharp edges so you can't hurt yourself. That's what we mean when we say nerf the world.
Look, let's get back to, like you said, the original conversation is the attack on the black family. Males,
child.
Males, female, and also when we're talking about children. Mm-hmm. And the attack on the children, there are so many things that you must understand about a black child. First things first, a black child is never innocent. A black child doesn't have the innocence of a white child. And people tell you this, oh, that's not true. You don't know what you're talking about. But anytime, if you ever see a child in court, and you see the judge throw a book at a 12-year-old black child. Mm-hmm. But at the exact same time, when a white child breaks into the store, steals a car, does all these different things, they don't get the same treatment. Mm-hmm. They get completely different treatment. Oh, it's just kids being kids. And if you don't understand that, I'll give you a prime example. In the modern world, Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch, Mark Wahlberg. What did Mark Wahlberg go to jail for?
Damn. What did he go to jail for?
He beat up an Asian man
That's right.
And he lost his eye. There were some racist kids running around Boston, so he goes to jail for beating up. He goes to juvie for beating up an Asian man. So the reason Marky Mark had the body he had because he got it when he was in jail. When he gets out of jail, his brother's like, "No, come on the road with me. I don't want you to disappoint mom anymore." And so he becomes Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. Fast forward 15 years, he becomes an actor, Basketball Diaries, et cetera, blows up. But how many black people do you know have knocked the eyeball out of a white man's head and they still ain't in jail or didn't do much time? No, when you are a black child, you are not innocent. You don't have the innocence of a white child. When you see these cops stop a bunch of... Now, don't get me wrong. I've dealt with this in my personal life.
I can answer that question.
Yes, go ahead. Proceed.
Bo Jackson. Go ahead.
I've dealt with white cops now because I got my kids are with... I had to run in with CPS. And my stepson was doing a lot of bad stuff. We were trying to get help. And so he learned from us how to manipulate white people. He knew how to say, yes, sir. Well, he was driving. First of all, he shouldn't have been driving. So he's in a car and everybody else is 18 and 19. He was the 15-year-old who was a 13-year-old. So the cops pull him over. He's driving. Though none of them have license. And he had a bunch of weed on him. Because they asked him, hold the weed because you're the minor. Why would you do that? Now, the cops like, hey, man, your son's this, and this. I'm going to put him in a boxing league. And I'm like, look, I told the officer, he got you. He's not going to do none of that shit. I assure you. Now, so don't get me wrong. There are times when cops...
Hold on, the cop was threatening?
No, the cop said, hey, your son has a lot of potential. He said, yes, sir, no, ma'am. I'm like, yeah.
Okay.
And I'm telling him, like, he's playing you. You know, he's not going to do your boxing league. He was doing that to get out of the situation. When you took him in the car by himself, he started crying, right? Like, yeah, he is playing you. He knows what buttons to push. Did you talk about Hurricane Katrina? Yeah. Yes. He was like 3 or 4 years. He doesn't even remember that. But he told you that he moved because of that, and now you feel sorry for him. Cut the bullshit. He's playing you. But but me and you growing up, we had a lot more run-ins with the cops where we were accused of stealing stuff.
Yeah.
I remember one time I was in a friend's car, Bernard, rest in peace. I'm in the back seat. Cop pulls us over and tells us the car is stolen. And this dude
was the car stolen?
No, it was Bernard's car. It's the same car he had. The car he always had. That Cutlass. Remember, it was gray first. His dad painted it black.
Yes.
So then they had the audacity to say, "Well, the color don't match the license plates." I'm like, "Well, sir, it still says Cutlass, don't it? It probably says Raggedy Cutlass when you look." Mm-hmm. So yes, I had several times where I almost went to jail. Luckily, I didn't. But at the same time, what I'm saying, how many of these black children go to jail and they're tried as adults or treated as adults, or because of some kind of fear? Because we love to talk this law and order shit. The Clintons done put more black folks in jail for nonviolent offenses than anybody else. And we're not just talking about weed. We're not just talking about stealing 3 strikes you're out. All those different things are all agendas that affect black people negatively. And how many of these people were underage when this stuff went down? Now, what I'm saying is that I know plenty of white guys that got in trouble as kids. They all got minors in possession. They all stole cars. They all did this. And guess what? They're fine, upstanding businessmen today, businesswomen today. But how many of these black kids couldn't break the cycle or weren't allowed to break the cycle, weren't given that chance? And that is the big issue when you talk about the attack on the black kids and black culture. For a black child to think that they'll never be worth anything. And don't get me wrong, we're talking about modern day, but going back when they start going back to the 50s and 60s when they would give the kids a black and white doll, exact same doll, which was pretty. The black children always point to the white doll. That kind of stuff. Those kind of those kind of things, and low self-esteem is a big part of the behavior problems that we have today. And a lot of that are the messages that were sent to them on television. Now, like I said, CPS is a very big problem because I've dealt with them. And CPS is an easy way for children to manipulate their parents now.
CPS being Child Protective Services.
Child Protective Services, that is correct. First things first, kids know that they can call CPS now and you can't discipline your child.
Yeah, the kid has leverage.
Yeah, the kid has leverage. I got a call one time from the resource officer at a particular high school. South.
Just say.
Yeah, South High School. So I'm minding my own business. Come to find out, my daughter had threatened to shoot somebody with my AR. So the officer, when she calls me, she says, "Mr. Morrow, do you own an AR?" I'm like, "Yeah, bitch, what do you want?" Yeah. What kind of question is that? That's not how you start a question. But I think she should have said, "Hey, personally, she said, Mr. Morrow, we've had an incident with your daughter here. She threatened, she threatened to shoot the girl with my stepfather's AR. She texted to the girl. It's on Facebook. You know what I'm saying? It's instant. So I was like, oh my God. Like, well, I assure you, ma'am, we actually reside at different residents. Her mom, she stays with her mom over in Bellevue. I live in North Omaha. She does not have access, and I do have a gun safe. No one has access to my weapons. But like I said, it's complicated. I'm glad that she called because, one, this is not CPS. This is the officer. I'm glad she called. But I've heard white kids threatened and they don't call the parents. They don't think these white kids have access to these weapons. And in fact, what you know as well as I do, white kids have access to more weapons. The whole idea, the narrative is that there's guns everywhere on the streets. There's guns everywhere in the suburbs. There's guns everywhere downtown. There's guns everywhere uptown. Stop doing that. Stop making it seem like that it's us. How many shootings? I live in Omaha, so Omaha, Nebraska. There's 2 shootings that come to mind. White boys shooting up the place. One, the shooting at Von Maur.
All right, at the mall.
Yeah,
Crossroads.
At the mall. That's correct. White dude got mad. Something about his girlfriend didn't want to be with him no more. 2005. Don't get me lying. I won't do that. I don't. It was. In fact, my mom was probably at the mall that day. I freaked out. That was one of them. The second one was white boy gets a gun and shoots the girl in the drive-thru at KFC. So he shoots her, but he keeps driving up and down the street to try to see what happened. So the cops see this guy. Why does this guy keep driving up the street? They stop him. They find him with the gun. He realizes he's a shooter. Do you know why he shot that girl? Because when Green Bay played New York had more black players. Green Bay had more white players. He felt like the refs were cheating for New York. So he was that angry to just shoot at some black person.
And clearly mental.
Yeah. So, but you don't have. You mean to tell me that there were no signs? You mean to tell me that he didn't say anything? Because these are both. I think they both were underage. We're not talking about 21-year-olds or 22-year-olds. We're talking about people that acquired guns illegally. And that's another thing. I'm not for gun control, so don't think that I'm saying that. What I'm saying is that
you're talking about judicial systems being skewed towards white youth.
I'm talking about the fact that that there's attack on black youth, period. And the fact is that when my daughter said something, I'm glad that officer did call. But at the same time, how come nobody called about these other situations when they knew that these people were acting up? They knew it when that boy was tripping at his job at McDonald's, he got fired. They knew that there was something wrong with it because he made several statements. He made several crazy statements. The same thing when they talk about Dylan Roof when the white boy shot the church.
They took his ass out for Burger King afterwards.
Hold it. See, I'm not saying that I'm psychic. I'm not saying that. But when I heard that story, I told a white lady I work with. I already know what happened. When they said that all of a sudden he went from his best friend was black, it was multicultural, whatever you want to call it. They're saying that he wasn't like that before, but all of a sudden he changed, became real radical racist profiling and all this other stuff. And we're looking at these websites. I said, look, the girl he likes is fucking a black dude.
Yep.
I said his problem ain't racism, it's BBC. And I told this to this girl at work. For the people who don't know, that's big black cock. You know, we don't say cock in the hood, but I know what the problem is. Sure enough, it came out that the girl that he liked was dating a black guy.
There it is.
And so because that girl that he likes was dating a black guy, he took it upon himself to become...
I want revenge.
Yes. He gets a gun and shoots up a church of innocent people. Now, first things first. I'm a Christian. I do go to church. But I don't believe you should be unarmed at church. I mean, how many times did it pass from the bombings in the 50s and 60s of those young girls in church? Man. How many times... As a black person, you should have your concealed carry. But I do realize many of us do lose that right. But the point I'm trying to make is the narrative is that these black kids are super dangerous and these white kids aren't. First things first, all these kids are dangerous. The second thing that nobody wants to discuss, the parents are too busy being their friend to actually be a parent. Stop feeling guilty being a parent. One of the biggest things these kids do is from 2 years old, I got a 2-year-old granddaughter who can manipulate my wife like you wouldn't believe. So if a 2-year-old can manipulate a grown woman, what makes you think a 17-year-old can't manipulate a grown woman? A 10-year-old or on up. All those ages, these kids do nothing but watch you. My nephew, who I love very dearly. And I'm like, he was talking to me one time. I said, motherfucker, talk to me like a man. Huh? I said, stop trying to charm me. I'm not a woman. I'm not your mother. I'm not your aunt. He stared at me like, yes, I know what you're doing.
Yeah, I see you.
But you don't speak to me like that.
Right.
And what I'm saying, he wasn't being disrespectful as in...
He's being manipulative.
Yeah, no, but he's talking to me as if he's trying to charm me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, motherfucker, I was raised by women too.
Right.
I know what you're doing.
Right, I see you.
Yeah, I
see what's going on.
But you don't talk to me like that.
Right. Right.
And so... And the first things first, my sister is an excellent mother. She disciplines that man. He's going to be a man. Mm-hmm. He ain't got no... I don't know about all the people, his cousins and all the people he hangs around, but I know my sister has done some great things with him. And she stays on... I expect great things from that man. But she's raising him to be a man.
Mm-hmm.
Many of the problems with the guilt trip that people lay on themselves and the children lay on them, I can't have Jordans. They'll make fun of me. Mm-hmm. Who the fuck cares? Look, my mama bought me shoes, and if I didn't wear, she bought me the ugly ass Pumas. I kept throwing them away, and she kept getting them out the garbage. If I find out you played basketball, you had your Pumas on, I'm gonna beat your ass. Oh. You do.
Oh God.
You know I'm not joking. So what I'm saying is that you keep hearing about abuse. Sometimes it's just discipline, and the fact is, kids. The reason these kids don't accept discipline for their parents because they don't look up to their parents. They don't respect their parents as who they are.
There was this recent video that was on social media, and there was a mother who came to school to discipline her son.
How bad was it? Because I didn't watch it.
It wasn't bad at all.
Yeah, okay.
Everybody has problems with the language that she used.
No,
hold on. See, what it was is, okay, she clowns him in front of everybody because he called the teacher a bitch. Right? Moms come to school.
And does something about it.
Snatches him in the midst of acting up in the cafeteria. He's dancing and acting a fool. She just snatches him up like a body snatcher and takes him outside and proceeds to first give him a rough ass talking to, because that's her child. And then 2, take off her belt and beat his ass.
Again, now here's the problem. Because she spanked him, because they put it on social media, they took her kids. They took the siblings too.
They did?
CPS. That's my point with CPS. Now, why would CPS do that? Because what she did was excessive. Were there whelps or something? No, what she did was the fact that these teachers deal with this every day, where they call a parent and the parent runs up there and cusses the teacher out. This woman went up there and went off on her son because, one, she was, as a mother, she probably was embarrassed that this boy had the nerve to call this other grown woman a bitch.
Yeah.
And so how do you
in
stop?
the defense of the teacher.
Yeah. So how do you stop that? You beat their ass. Now, here's something else that people don't know, especially with this CPS shit. Because when you hear the word CPS, you automatically, people are terrible. No, I've dealt with it.
That shit was a whisper in the back in the day, man.
It was a joke back in the day.
It was a fucking joke.
You would say it, but you didn't mean it.
Like,
but let me tell you something that people. This is what I meant by the death of the civics class. The 14th Amendment gives you the ability to raise your children however you want. Now I forgot what it says because it doesn't say that, but that's what, when these people talk about raising their children in these crazy ways, and I'm out in the rural area and I don't believe in vaccinations. This is the 14th Amendment that they use. So it's really important. When you don't understand, then you can be suckered into anything. Like I said, when I say the attack on the black children, here's what happens. Like I said, I've been through it. So you got CPS called on you. They investigate you a couple times. Well, the third time is just like, if you ever call the police will come to your house and say, if I get called out again, somebody's going to jail. Well, that's CPS is the same way. They can investigate you 3 or 4 times and not find anything, but they're like, well, look, somebody else is calling us, so it must be something there. And what they do is then they'll take your children. And guess what? Your children get pregnant while they're in care of CPS, while they're in foster care. Your children get in fights while they're in foster care. Your children get assaulted while they're in foster care. Then, when you try to discipline your child and tell them what they're doing is wrong, they call the caseworker. Oh, my caseworker said I ain't got to do that. I'm like, what do you mean? I told you no. Well, my caseworker said I can drive. I said, you can't drive one of my cars. I got 7 cars. I got 4 kids. Then I got 2 other kids on the side. I got plenty of cars, but I'm not giving them. My caseworker said this. I'm like, well, your caseworker ain't your parent. And then let me explain something else to you when you talk about the attack on the black family, the black child. When these girls get pregnant at 14 and 15 and 16 and they're in foster care, but when you go to the doctor, it's your family taking you and your family's still taking care of you. And guess what happens when people ask, how did you get pregnant? What happened? They don't ask about the caseworker. They don't ask about the foster parent. How your mama let you do that? See, you still belong to me. When these people done getting paid, because I don't get paid to take care of you, and I'm your stepfather. So you don't even have my last name, and y'all motherfuckers don't look like me. But when you got CPS backing them in a negative way, when there's no repercussions for their actions, when you can't discipline them when it needs to be done, when they don't, and people, when I say fear, it ain't about fear, when they don't respect your words. The reason one of my daughters has a little girl, and she's getting frustrated with her. And see, I thump them behind the ear, and then they look at Paw like, yeah, don't do that. And so she gets frustrated. The girl's squirming. She hits her in the stomach. She slaps her. I'm like, no, you don't do that. You could actually hurt that child. But the thing is, that's your frustration showing. That's your lack of parenting. That's your lack of rearing. So now that you're out in public, she's not behaving the way you want her to. You get frustrated. Instead, you should like do what I did: thump her behind the ear, get her attention. The reason you put your hands on your child is not to injure them, is to reinforce your words. Mm-hmm. Because if my words are clear and you respect my words, then I know when I'm not there, you'll still respect them. Because that's the problem. And like you said, now these kids are doing crimes they shouldn't be doing. Mm-hmm. They're encountering people they shouldn't encounter. Yep. Yeah, I had a problem with one of my daughters and a pimp. He was from Chicago. He's not going to do that again.
Let's think about this for a second now. Because a lot, we'll say many, young black kids, boys mostly, wind up in the correctional systems of America.
Yes.
Now, let's just go out on a ledge for a second. Maybe not a ledge, but let's just say that perhaps there is some design to give CPS more power to separate children from their families, giving these children a sense of like fake autonomy. Also, making these children so liberated and to the point where they become lawless at some point.
Yes.
Allow them to like be an easier path for them to be, like just swept away into the justice system.
The system. Well, okay, first things first. what you're saying is very true. There are several articles about how much money CPS gets per child. When CPS takes a child out the home, they get 5,000 or 10,000, excuse me, per child based on the age. Think about that. That's not just the money. They still get funding to take care of the child, but the office gets so much more money. So their incentive that's incentivizing removing a child from the family. Second, the caseworkers don't have the proper training, and when I say proper training, I had a caseworker that took the kids out the home and gave them every right in the world that you can't do that. You can go to the doctor without your parents, all kinds of stuff. Then I had somebody else who was going through it where the woman herself, the caseworker, had been in the system, and she did not want to remove that child from the family. And the child's father was on drugs. The child's mother was on drugs. They had left the boy by himself several times. They had left him in the house with his siblings. Sibling ain't nothing but 5 or 6 years old. This baby is 9 months old. So a friend of mine, which is a cousin of the father, took the child, and they were looking to adopt. But because this caseworker would not allow it, they got involved. Well, I don't think they should ever be taken from their parent. Well, then you ask them why not. Come to find out, she was taken from her parents. So because of her personal experience, not her training, she's allowing her personal experience to influence this. And this situation ain't the same deal. So you have a lot of things going on to get these children out of the house. They're being institutionalized at an early age, and the problem with that, of course, that means that they won't have a problem going to jail.
Because but do you understand that CPS is the pathway to institutionalization?
That's complicated.
No, it's real simple.
No, that's
because it leads to it.
Hold it, that's one avenue.
No, my point is it's their introduction.
Yeah, that's one avenue.
The institutions of America.
Yeah, but
really, it's also the light introduction to socialism.
You already know that's my problem with it.
That's fucking socialism.
I got you beat. I had a child. All my older children had problems with attendance, and one of my daughters had a problem with attendance. So, do you know they start paying her to go to school? They would give her a stipend, like $250 a month, if she didn't miss any days.
How is she collecting the funds?
They give her a check. No, they give her a check card, and every time that she has like 22 days.
How old is this kid?
She's out. She is right now. She's 20, but at the time she was 16. No, I'm lying. She was 15.
What state 15? Was this?
This is Omaha, Nebraska. This is North High School.
What program?
It's not. No, that's what you're not getting. It's not a program. That's just OPS.
OPS is doing this?
Yes. It's not a program. It's OPS. And now here's the crazy part. Now.
What the fuck?
I got you. Now, hold on. Now, what if you have a child that gets perfect attendance? What do you give that child that gets perfect attendance?
A scholarship?
Not a goddamn thing. So a child that's been in perfect attendance since she was in, because you remember one of my other kids had perfect attendance since she was like in 2nd grade all the way to the 6th, 7th grade. She don't get nothing. She gets an award. She gets a certificate. But my child that was missing a bunch of days, they said, well, we think you got potential. We want you to come to school. If you come to school, we'll give you $250 a month. That's introduction to socialism.
Yes, it is.
So when, you ain't see that one coming. Yes. Okay.
No.
Here's the point I'm trying to make.
No.
Here's the point.
This shit is all wrong, dude.
We got to bring it back to what the point is. It's an attack on the black child.
Of course.
All these different things attack the child's ability to be an adult. It hinders your ability to be an adult. It's tough enough being a child today. There's a lot of crap going on, and we all have different situations.
Okay, but let me interject and say this. What's going on is the separation of the child from its mother first.
From the parents, period.
Yeah, from the family.
Yeah.
And by doing that, you introduce the child to the system. And then this child believes it now has leverage over its parents.
That's the first step.
So it's going to use this bargaining chip to get like its autonomy or its
freedom.
Its freedom, whenever possible. But this child is going into a world full of powerful pedophiles.
Well, hold it. Wait.
I'm making a point.
Pause it.
No. I'm making a point. I want to finish this. Put a pin in that. The thing is, this child is going into this system that's full of pedophiles. Mm-hmm. From the doctor's office, from the CPS office, from the church, and the school system, especially the school system. And it's creating this playing field that makes it easier for the child to become prey.
That's
on
true.
So many levels. What were you going to say?
The parts you're leaving out is the fact that these kids are drinking, having sex, getting sexually transmitted diseases, having kids, and going to the doctor. And if you try to go to the doctor and say, hey, what's going on with my daughter? Oh, we don't have to tell you. It's HIPAA laws. HIPAA laws are for adults. They're in my custody. No. HIPAA laws. No, we don't have to tell you anything. So the next thing you know, your kid has a bunch of adult problems that you didn't know about. They can't cope with that. And another thing, there are several articles about CPS being a gateway for pedophilia and these sex rings and all this other stuff.
Voila.
Yeah, but it's not just CPS. CPS is twofold. First things first is when they catch a kid having sex, do they punish them? No. You want to go to the doctor? No. Instead of them like, no, it's bad, you shouldn't be doing that, let's move you. Or when you find out that there's something going on in that home and you tell them like, hey, somebody did something to my kid, I don't know what's going on, you need to move them, they don't. So they're preparing them for a life that's not realistic or not adequate or not sustainable. Second, the other thing is that, for instance, when these kids are dating older men or these boys are dating older women, I'm like, okay, this dude is 27 years old and my daughter is 16. You don't have a problem with that? Or what do you mean? You know exactly what that right.
Statutory rape?
That right there is statutory rape. But the funny thing is, another thing, when a person is a ward of the state, not just a child's a ward of the state, but when you're in prison, you can't have sex with a prisoner. You go to jail for that. So how can you have sex with a child that's a ward of the state and nothing happen? Nothing be done about it.
Because the system is set up to protect those kind of people. Exactly.
That's the point. It's protecting the kid from who? Now, I'm not saying CPS shouldn't exist, and I'm not saying there are serious situations. We grew up with some people that, man, they probably should have been taken from their home. They didn't. So CPS is not broken. It's not right. And what they're doing is, like I said, they're giving these kids these rights and these abilities, and these kids are using this leverage. Like you said, you can't whip me, you can't put your hands on me. But then the kid will sock you in your nose, hit you dead in your face.
No.
Yes.
No.
And then, or the kid they'll steal a car, or they'll steal a bunch of stuff. Or you'll ask for help with your kid, but they don't give you help until the kid steals enough money. One of my daughters stole like all these handbags from a damn store or some shit, like $15,000 in Coach bags. Then all of a sudden, you have a problem. Yes, we told you that. So when you see that what it's doing is granting adult rights to a child, and these children think they can make these decisions and have sex and drink and do all these different things, what are these kids doing? What we talked about earlier, they're imitating an adult. That's why it's important that first things first, these kids don't see you act a fool, cuss, and do all this other stuff. Now, if I got to whoop somebody's ass over my family, trust me, I'll do it right then and there. But when it comes to arguing, me and my old lady don't argue in front of kids. We don't do those things. And people don't understand that.
Okay, let's talk about that. Expand on that, because I agree with you that when I date women that have children, like, I believe it's very important to not argue in front of the kids, because the man and woman of the house have to show solidarity.
Yes.
Because then, if the kids see that, they can play to those weaknesses.
Yes.
And manipulate, at will.
But also, he needs to see how a man acts with a woman. So many times we talk about, like, me and my lady will be joking or something, and then the kids do the same thing we do. Mm-hmm. They're 2 and 3 years old, and you're like, oh, crap. So that's telling you, even from an early age, they're observing that behavior.
Right.
So as a man, they should observe me providing, being stability, being a protector, and all those things. If they see that, hopefully when they get older, that's the kind of person they select. That's what. All I can be is an example of who they should select.
All right.
And at the same time, they should not see me put the mother down. They should not see the mother put me down, because when I've had a problem with women doing that. I'm like, you need to stop. You should do that from the kids. I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, cool. You'll find out. So I leave, because what's going to happen is those kids can't respect me if the mama ain't respecting me. Because they're observing. That's the behavior they're going to have. They're going to talk to me any kind of way. Now the problem with that is, first things first, a child should not think they're an adult. It should be the head of the household, mom, dad, then the children. And I'm not saying that you should be kicking the kids and starving them or nothing. I'm saying that sometimes when you have a discipline issue, you need to discipline the kids accordingly, the way it needs to be done. And when you don't give them discipline, what's going to happen is they'll find discipline somewhere else in the world. And that's how they, like you said, when you said that's the gateway to the penitentiary, it's not just the part about putting them in an institution, It's also giving them unrealistic things that they expect. They're not going to be able to take no from somebody.
You want to hear something crazy, man? Like, D.C. as a city has so many missing black children.
It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. I've never seen so many missing black children being posted on social media as I have for D.C. Now, D.C. is also the power hub for the United States, political power hub.
Look, I know where you're going with it. That's a tough one. I don't know.
I do.
I believe it, but again, the reason I want to look, there's a lot of missing children in Texas. There's a lot of missing women in Atlanta. There's a lot of
and
missing
pedophile
women.
rings too.
Yes, and what you're talking about is something okay. First things first. Let's just take the gloves off. I'm from Omaha, Nebraska. So
the King credit scandal.
Let's talk about the Franklin Credit Union scandal. In Omaha, it's called the Franklin Credit Union scandal. Mm-hmm. Everywhere else is called the King scandal. Mm-hmm. This is when a well-known black man that was very high up in the Republican Party was a pimp for pedophiles.
Yes,
he would steal children from literally from Boys Town. Mm-hmm. He was donating a bunch of money to Boys Town. He would get these kids from Boys Town, take them to Washington, and they would have sex.
But it wasn't just Boys Town, because there was also people that we knew that were not orphans.
But slow down.
Hold on, because he had his recruiting camps.
No, slow down. What you're talking, they didn't go to Washington.
Yeah. So what? It's still a little bit of black boys booty holes. All the same.
I agree with you, but what I'm referring to is the national level one. Now, locally, this individual ran a credit union that funded a big portion of the black community. So he went to every single church. He went to every single. He was funding baseball teams, basketball teams,
basketball camps,
and his sons had cars.
And when you wanted to go to the basketball camp, what did your mama say to you?
No. That's not how it went down. My best friend next door, our friend Chad, he played for a basketball team that it was funded by him. And these boys would go spend the night at his house, and they would tell me, like, "Man, his son has a Trojan. They got a video game, and this is a mansion of acres. This house today is
Raven Oaks.
It's past Raven Oaks. It's over there by Dodge Park. Mm-hmm. It's on the way to Surfside. And this house.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, the house is an amazing house, even back then. And so these kids would spend the night at his house. So I'm like, "Hey, Mom, can I go spend the night at Larry King's house?" My mama looked at me in my face, "Man, you better say the hell. You ain't go nowhere near that faggot." I'm like, "What?" My mom like, "Yeah, he gay." And then that was it, because my mom don't talk like normal people. She's not ghetto. It's just my mom is very
blunt.
Yeah. And so I didn't get it. And then finally I found out, like, this man was doing things with these boys. And a lot of them, I would say a lot of them.
Don't, listen. This is what I'm going to say. There's people that we know, and we will not name these people.
No.
That they would go to his house.
They would spend the night at this man's house.
And they would, no, stop, listen. I'm going to tell you the stories I know. There were kids that I knew that went to this guy's house to do yard work. And they would do yard work, and they would sweep up they would rake up the leaves in the front yard. And they were told to do this with their shirts off.
He would pay them $200 back in 85 and 86 per kid.
That's a lot of bread in 85.
Yes, that's drug dealer money.
Dude.
And so, yes. And when I say Republican Party, he's saying at the Republican National Convention. Now.
Hold up. Now, these little boys were not just working outside. They were working inside the house. Also with their shirts off.
Again, see, I didn't even get that.
Yeah, but these are people that I knew that told me this shit.
Hold it. Slow down. This stuff, first things first, do you know where he is now?
He's free. He's hiding out in plain sight.
No, he's not hiding anywhere.
Yes, he is. This motherfucker he owns a chain restaurant somewhere.
Yeah, he owns Honey Baked Ham in Virginia.
Exactly.
I know where
hiding
he is.
In plain sight.
Yes. Now, if for anybody listening, look up the book. The book is called The Franklin Credit Union Scandal. Second, there's a documentary that was done on the Discovery Channel.
Yes, Conspiracy of
Silence. When you can find this on YouTube, Conspiracy of Silence. Watch that. That's the individual we're talking about. So when you try to say that we're making stuff up, my point being, this is what we mean by the attack.
This is history.
This is the attack on the black child. When you got children who when your parents are so broke, they're like, "Go ahead and go to this pedophile's house so I can get a loan." Go ahead, so you go to this pedophile's house. So look, this ain't no different than Michael Jackson. The only difference is, from what I've seen, I don't think Mike did it. I think Mike might have grabbed some butts he shouldn't have. But Mike wasn't doing some of the stuff these boys were telling him because it was proven that he didn't. But this is the same thing, that when you're that desperate for money, you are mortgaging your child's asshole just so that you can get a car, or so you can get favor in the church, or what? None of that makes sense. None of that's worth it. So this is what I meant by the parents being desperate and corrupt. Also, what I'm saying, as a parent, as a mom, as a dad, you should feel no guilt being a parent. If you got money or not, that doesn't mean that you're a bad parent. You're still a good parent. You should be. Now, as long as you feel guilty, you can be manipulated by your child, by your children's friends, by your church, by anybody else, by these businesses that want you to buy stuff for your kids, who bombard the kids with commercials. You can be corrupted. CPS, when they tell you, like, you can't spank your child or we're going to come get you.
Dude, they're going as far as, like, wanting you to chip your child.
Now, look, we read about that in 1991, but the fact is that it's close to it. The chip will be in the buttocks, in the hand.
And these are actually pedophile groups that are peddling these chips for children.
And people don't see it that way. Mm-hmm. People don't recognize the attack on the black child. Because the thing is, when black kids come up missing, they actually blame the kid. That's the difference between white kids and black kids. If a white kid comes up missing, they're like, oh my God, what was he doing?
Dude, I live in Atlanta, okay? 5 years before the Franklin credit scandal, there was the Atlanta child murders.
I already know where you're going.
And I dug deep into that.
But hold it. There's one thing about that that's real creepy. How come the CDC was involved?
Right.
That's the weird. Hold it. So you got some missing kids, but the CDC comes out and says, hey, we had nothing to do with it. Why would you say that?
Now, what's crazy about that is his father worked on the Manhattan Project.
Which one?
Wayne Williams, his father.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, he worked on the Manhattan Project, right? But they never say exactly like what his rank was and like what his job was in the military at that time.
That's crazy.
Now, there's a lot of investigation that's gone into this about the influence of the people around Wayne Williams, because when you dig into the story, you see that this guy was really like a chump, nobody, a loser, right? But he was always around the right people to like give him a push so that he could like get the influence that he needed to like.
Remember, he was also doing the music thing.
Music things. Yeah. That's where all the kids came from, because he would always go. He was a Pied Piper, so he would always go to the strip mall where all these kids would hang out.
You want to record a song.
We're going to record a song. Yeah, yep. Exactly. But this guy, hold on. He was a freelance cameraman for Fox 5, I think it was, a local news network. And this guy, he went from just having a basic car to all of a sudden he had what looked like a undercover federal agent's car at the time, with all types of like police radio antennas hanging off the back of this car. Mm-hmm. On a cameraman's salary, you can't afford that.
You shouldn't be able to afford that.
You should not be able to afford that, right? Then, within investigations, you come to find out that he had when his father had a storage site, and he gave a lot of these files to Wayne for his involvement in the Manhattan Project. And the day after Wayne was arrested, they raided his storage facility, and they took all the files from his father's Manhattan Project involvement, and also Wayne's ROTC government. Let me back up. He was part of this program that was like Upward Bound. Yeah. But for ROTC.
Yeah, get you in the military, basically, yeah.
Exactly. But they said, well, it was said that, alleged that they were giving him intelligence training. Right. Intelligence training so that he could go over to Africa to like be an asset somehow. And, be a liaison back and forth between Africa and the U.S., whatever. But the weird part about all this is that how it seemed like there was another force or entity involved with the disappearance of these kids. So these kids were going missing in ways that didn't like really match up with like the allegations. Like Wayne Williams was over here on this side of town when these kids were going missing, like in this part of town over here where he wasn't even known to be. And then the detective. The crazy part about it is the main detective that's in charge of the case, didn't believe Wayne did it at all.
There's two things about that. Remember how he was toying with them when they were questioning him? Because he felt he was real smart. That was a big part of it. What's his last name? Wayne.
He's
what?
an egomaniac.
Yeah, Wayne
Williams.
Wayne Williams, excuse me. And so his whole thing was, yeah, I'm toying with these guys. They'll never know what I'm up to. Now, do you think he took any of the boys? Honestly, because he's weird. The guy's weird.
Yeah, I think it's possible. Like he may have like maybe done something to one of the kids, but as far as like all of them, no.
So that's what I'm saying.
So here's the thing. He's a patsy, though.
Yes.
Let's get to the fucking point here.
Look,
he's a fucking patsy for a larger group of pedophiles.
Or we don't know. We don't know they're pedophiles. We don't know what they're doing.
Yeah,
with
they're
kids.
pedophiles because they were sexually molesting these kids and then dumping their bodies in the river.
And didn't care.
They didn't care.
Now, my whole thing is, I'm saying Wayne maybe grabbed too, but I'm saying they piled the rest on him to cover up all this other stuff. The biggest question that you have to ask in these cases, after he was arrested, did the kids stop coming up missing?
No, that's the crazy part.
Many people don't ever address that issue right there. I'm gonna give you an example. This is probably a dumb example, but you know me, I don't give a fuck. The Bermuda Triangle. Do you know there's some kind of worldwide it's not an insurance agency, but it's like an insurance database, and they track all the plane crashes and all the shipwrecks all over the place. Do you know exactly? The Bermuda Triangle is average. It's actually below average for the world. For how many ships when you have planes fly out, they expect to lose 20%. When you have ships go out, you expect lost.
Yeah.
And so the Bermuda Triangle is actually lower than average. So what I'm saying is, when this man got arrested, did the average drop? Did it go like, hey, you know what? We only had one missing kid in 9 months after he went. No, the numbers stay the same. You gotta look. Numbers don't lie, but liars use numbers. So you need to look at them numbers and figure out like, okay, those liars that said it was him. Yeah, that's what you need.
Nothing
to look
he did put a dent in anything.
That's my point.
Getting him off the street didn't change anything.
Look, the thing that nobody wants to talk about, there are several reasons for whether the conspiracy theories are real. There's several things that go on with black children, with children in general. Everything from pedophiles, sexual gratification, everything from experiments, organs missing. You know, a lot of the stuff going on overseas is organs missing. Mm-hmm. You know, so don't be surprised if it's not going on over here. Because with a black kid, what about the black kid he's down south, rolled up in a wrestling mat. They put him on the wrestling mat. His kidneys were gone. His insides were gone. That's not a lynching. That's not some racial stuff. There's more to that. Other reason is, of course, the prison system. You know, we got to fund the prison system. One of the things they talk about was crazy to me is that they actually have a quota. Certain prisons have a contract with the surrounding area of the city or the state. They must have 90% occupation. So if it drops below 90% occupation, they can't make any money. So that state has to pay them a $1 million bonus. Yes, a $1 million bonus because they're under. Now, why would you even have that? Now, and another thing that many people don't understand is that these prisons aren't being built for black people. These prisons are being built for poor white people. So when this race riot hits or this stuff goes down, don't think there's going to be us feeling it. Because white people they experiment on us. They do this stuff to see if it works. But then once they perfect it,
they'll use it on their own people.
They use it on their own people.
But we're talking about little black boys and black girls.
Yeah.
Right
So, but I'm saying I don't. But this goes back to what you said about the institutionalization of a black child. They become accustomed to being in prison and being taken care of. They can't take care of themselves. They have no human skills. They don't have the skills or the abilities to do a job or a trade. So what do they have to do? They end up having to do a crime because that's the easy way to being taken care of.
Let's talk about imagery and self-love. No. Recently there was this stupid ass wrestling referee, high school, that made his black kid cut his dreads off.
Yeah.
And then also 3 months later, there's this chicken shit non-profit organization that's having little like black boys cut their dreads off.
And okay, what's the point? That is an attack on your identity or your personality.
That's an attack on your identity. You know what I mean? So it's saying that, okay, don't celebrate your culture. Don't let your hair grow out. You know what I mean? Because that's strength. Like, why would you not do that? You know what I mean? It's two things. It's psychological conditioning and it's control. Like it's really some like it's training you to be a coon.
Well, no, okay. It's not just that. It's also telling you that there's something wrong with you. That's the big issue that nobody wants to understand. That if I tell my kids there's something wrong with them, then they'll never ever grow up to be anything. That they'll have those issues that we talked about in the last session. Oh, I don't like myself. I can't do something.
Yeah. So another thing that like I think we haven't covered yet is young black women, like young girls, and like what I'm seeing now is a lot of instances where there are attacks on the identity of young black women, and it's not fair to to exclude the young black women in this conversation because I mean the plight is just as bad for them as it is for the young boys. But what I will say, I have noticed is that the imagery that I see like in television, it's not one that is conducive to dark skin. And like what I mean by that is like you'll see like naturalistic hairstyles like in television shows and in commercials, but they tend to be for more fair-skinned actresses or young actresses, and I don't see a lot of like dark-skinned black girls on TV with a black family. It'll be like her and her black mama with a white man, or just nothing. Or what I'm trying to say is these are not images that promote black pride. And I say it like we need more black pride in television and in film, but it needs to be more realistic. I mean, it just seems to be like this soft pedaling towards that. And little black girls are a part of that. But then again, I don't see a lot of little black boys on TV in these commercials, with black parents. They're always like adopted by some white person or, taken in by another race. But you never see like just straight across the board, like black families together that look like real black people. You know what I mean?
Look, I call that the blind side like syndrome. That these black kids that you know what, the only way I'm gonna be successful is if somebody else grabs me and takes me away from my situation. That's unrealistic, and it also gives the impression that black parents can't parent. Or we don't have enough money, or we don't have. You don't need money to be a parent. You need to be able to feed your family, protect your family, and clothe and house them. Everything else is secondary. You don't need name brands, but the fact that I can't possibly go to college if I'm with my parents. And like I said, these kids will get money, and CPS gets money to take them out your house, or they
see, like what I was talking about just a second here was that little black girls are very much a part of this discussion, and the images that we see on TV, they seem to be like we were talking about the introduction to socialism earlier.
Yes,
but they're introducing them to this socialist ideology. But at the same time, like there's a lack of self-love because you don't see a black girl with her black father. You see some black girl and some old white man together on some yogurt commercial. You know what I'm saying? Like you never see like an old black man, a grandpa, and his granddaughter, or you don't see her with her father.
It's multiple reasons for that, but yes.
Yes, of course it is. I'm being real fucking specific right now.
The biggest thing you got to worry about is the image. It's going to make you not want to be around your people. It's going to make you think, oh, my people ain't successful. I'm not going to waste my time over there.
That's exactly what I'm getting at.
But they're feeding that to them, and people are eating it.
Mm-hmm.
Look, if what you're saying is that I can't be successful, and there's no reason for me to be over here. I can't get the money. I can't get nice stuff. The only way to get that is by warming up to a white man. No, that's not how the world works. You have the ability to do it on your own, but if you don't have self-esteem or self-confidence or self-love, and self-love extends to your family too. Now, it's not just love of self; it's love of your type. It's love of people like you.
But here's the thing, though: that little black girl doesn't need to be taught or trained to think that she is going to be the one watching over everybody, or she's going to be looking out for the young black boy, you know what I'm saying, because she's going to be the one that's closest to massa in the house. No. That type of thinking is gone. That type of thinking needs to be kept in the past. But the thing is, this like slow microdose, this is microdose Willie Lynch syndrome. Okay, that's what this is. And the whole thing about like, okay, well, we won't put the like young black boys in commercials, so we'll have a young black girl, and that'll be enough representation. Okay, so she can get the job. She can be in the Crystal Castle with, you know, the rich white people and live a good life while these young black, while her nephew and her brother are in jail and she sends them money for their commissary. Fuck all that.
Look, those situations do exist. They do happen. But those are not the norm. We're convinced that that's the norm.
That's the fucking problem.
Yeah.
That shit, the abnormal is being blown up.
And the normal is
shrunken.
But the problem with the normal's boring. People don't write the book about the normal.
Zero fucks about that. Give me the normal.
And the issue is that these kids are it's not just the parents are abandoning the kids are abandoning their household. The kids are abandoning their situation to go live with other people. You see this all the time. Like you said this earlier. We always see these kids on TV with other race family. You can stay here as long as you want. I experienced that in my struggle with CPS. I'm like, okay, so your kid runs away. He goes to a friend's house. Back in the day, that friend parent would have called you like, hey, you know, Tommy's over here. Or if they don't know you, how come after the third day, I'm going to call the police. This something ain't right here. No. You guys are white. You got a black kid staying there. He's been there for 2 weeks. You don't mind?
Right.
You're Mexican. No, you're Mexican. I ain't got that far yet. You're Mexican. How come you got a black kid living with you and you ain't got no problem with it? Now, there's two things going on. These parents are too busy being their friends, number one. Number two, the kid is banging the daughter. Now, your question is the kid banging the mom or the mom banging the kid?
It's the dad in the closet watching.
Yeah. Because how's my son's 17 at the time. He was staying with these white folks. I'm like, how do you let your wife let him stay here? It's cool. No, it's not. Because he dated your daughter. They ain't dated since junior high. That was 5 years ago. Something else going on here. And so when you try to hit him with that, like, yes, it is a pedophile society. Yeah. We get the R. Kelly narrative. We get that. That's some real shit. And the problem with the R. Kelly situation is that when it comes to separating these kids from their family, these families were an active role, had an active portion in some, not all of them. He was a Pied Piper.
You say most of them.
I'll just say half because I don't know enough about it. But I'll say this: he's so dumb he doesn't lie. So when he was in that interview with Gail King, he's like, "So what about these young girls? Their parents brought them to me. Okay, so what you're saying is because their parents brought them to me, it's not your fault what happens next. But you still must remember their parents brought them to you. But having sex with a minor is still having sex with a minor, whether their parents brought them to you.
Got up there and did the interview.
Even if their parents brought them to you, or they pimp brought them to you, or they drove themselves. It don't matter how the girl got there. But if her parents brought them to you, shame on them. But the fact of the matter is, shame on you for doing it. And that's what you don't say. You told on yourself. But what you're saying is that it's an attack on black children. Little girls think those little girls are living in his mansion. Now that dude's broke now. He has less than $1 million bucks. He had 150 million. Now, what are you supposed to have to do that 150 million?
Paying off lawyers.
Yes. What case though?
Multiple.
No.
Aaliyah.
Yes. Aaliyah Houghton's parents sued him, and they got the rights to "I Believe I Can Fly." They got the rights to many of his songs. Yes, he went from 150 million to maybe 2. So, but that don't matter because that's still enough money for him to rush the 5 or 6 little girls he has following him around, or he's in town having sex with he done gave herpes to a bunch of them. But the thing is, they're living in a mansion. They can't live in a mansion where they were. Some of them actually parents had money, but they're living in a mansion. They're living in a big hotel. They're driving cars they couldn't normally afford. That's the problem with socialism. You got somebody taking care of you. You can't make decisions on your own. And if they went back, a couple of them went back home, but remember, they snuck out and went back to R. Kelly because now I'm bored.
Stockholm Syndrome.
Some of it's Stockholm Syndrome, but some of it also is the fact that I'm bored. These children are so afraid of being bored, they will hurt themselves.
Yeah.
That goes back to that adrenaline junkie shit you were talking about.
Yep.
These kids actually have a need to do something,
Yep.
and when they have a need to be told what to do. So a lot of these motherfuckers run to these pimp situations, boys and girls, and they don't realize they're pimp situations, and they run to them because they want to be told what to do, or they want to have some action, or they want to have this, they want to have that. But the fact of the matter is this: they're getting the impression that you're talking about. They're giving the impression that leaving my family is the way to go, they have nothing to offer me. Now the thing is, these kids don't want to grow up. They don't want to be 19, 20 and become adults. They want to be adults at 13, 14, and 15.
But they have these cuck parents that allow them to do this, knowing what the danger is.
I'm going to ask you one question. Now, we grew up, my dad had me drinking six malt liquor when I was 2 or 3 years old. It's just what I had a couple sips, but never smoked weed with me. My mom never smoked weed with me. My mom didn't drink with me.
My parents, neither one of them smoked weed.
I know. Neither one of your parents sat and drank with you. Now, your dad might give you a little wine. Your mom probably gave you some wine.
My mom might give me a little sip of wine, just every now and then.
Yeah.
On New Year's Eve. You know what I'm saying?
That's it.
My dad was a straight shooter. So I snuck and tasted his beer when he went to the bathroom when we was watching the game.
You was on WrestleMania. I know what you were watching.
He had a beer, and I sipped the beer. And he would never, ever even dream of even offering that to
That's
me.
my point, is that your dad was a parent.
Yeah.
These people ain't parents. They're just vessels for these children to come out of. And they don't know how to raise them. They don't have any desire of anything past what the physical was.
Deep right there.
And so what happens is they grow up at the same time their kids do. But when you grow up with your kids, you and your kids are the same age. That's where the problem comes in, because now you want to be a parent and impart some advice on them, but they're like, look, I see you drunk the other night. You can't tell me shit.
Well.
Yeah, you had Bobby over. Like, so.
You can't even have conversations like that with your kids.
Look, dude, I had a talk with my daughter. I had a friend of mine, our friend is having a problem with his wife and kids. And I was telling him, like, I had a conversation with my daughter about homosexuality, and I'm like, because she was, she learned a bunch of sign language, but she learned a bunch of these words, Zanir and all these other words and all these signs.
That Zimzer bullshit.
Yeah. So she learned, and I'm like, baby, it's a little more complicated than that. I'm like, you need to back off some of that shit, because let me explain this to you. That
Did you say it like that?
Yes. And she's like, you gonna get in trouble? I'm like, no. I said, look.
You gonna get in trouble?
Let me explain this to you, baby. If I'm at work, then yes, I will respect those social things. But when I'm at home, if I see you and you look like a man and you have a penis, I don't care if you have a bra on or not, I'm gonna say, hey, sir, I'm gonna call you sir, or ma'am. That's out of respect. Now, if you correct me, like, nah, I consider myself a man, I'm like, but your DNA says different, I'm gonna go with your DNA. I'm gonna call you a sir. Now, you can get offended if you won't, but I'm saying that's the definition of the word. The problem is the English language, you can make up any word you want. Now, she said, well, people are born gay or this. I'm like, okay, but you understand, baby, the term homosexual means one thing and one thing only. The term gay means homosexual, right? What does homosexual mean? You like boys? No. Homosexual means you've had sex with the same sex. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean you have a preference. Homosexuality does not discuss your preference. Those are terms and complicated things they're laying on y'all way too early.
Yep.
Now, first things first, unfortunately, for many people, sexuality is flexible. It ain't for me, but it is for these other people. Mm-hmm. So they've had experiences, whether they consider themselves gay or straight, they're still wrestling with those. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they were forced upon them. Sometimes they weren't. What you're not getting many times, these people who are saying they're gay have had experiences that you're unaware of.
Okay, so here's a good thing to mention now. What you're discussing is something that needs to be held off until a child starts to reach puberty and gets closer to adulthood. Like, this whole idea about talking about homosexuality at an early age is fucking stupid. And I don't give a fuck if you don't like the fact that I say that. I don't fucking care, because this is my fucking opinion. The thing is, man, is that, like, that is something, like, listen.
They're being exposed to stuff they shouldn't be exposed to.
It's too early. It's too fucking early for that. A child needs to be a fucking child before you start ramming this fucking agenda down their fucking throat like you're trying to do with the rest of the goddamn world. Like, seriously, man. Like, listen. Let a kid be a fucking kid. And if they come to you with that fucking question, then answer the fucking question for them like a fucking adult. But until then, don't go putting that shit in fucking school curriculums and the systems and, like, just shoving it down their fucking throat. Let them be fucking children. Don't have them thinking about, all this stuff before they should be thinking about it.
Look, the issue is, I'm telling her, like, okay, the term gay means that you're having sex. Now, I'm not saying these people don't have a preference. I'm not saying that boys don't like boys and girls don't like girls. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that sometimes there are other factors involved that you're unaware of. So I'm like, you're laying something on them way too soon. Now, I get what you're saying, that he prefers boys right now. That's fine. Cool. He might not forever.
He might switch governments later on.
Yeah,
whatever.
But there are other factors. I was reading these articles about what's this atrazine. They use that as a pesticide. It causes all kinds of problems with animals and sexuality, and you got boys with genital
hermaphrodism.
Yeah, no, they become girls.
Yeah,
they're genetically boy, but physically. I'm like, you got to understand that sometimes, going back to this diet stuff we talked about on our last discussion, there are a lot of things that can affect you inside the womb that people don't want to address. So what I'm saying is, baby, if he has a penis, he's a boy. If he has a vagina, he's a girl. There are hermaphrodites in the middle, but all the other how are these people talking trans to a child? How are these people giving these kids? No, that is brutality. My other problem, me and you were joking about this the other day. I'm like, you see all these trans women do not understand a man's motivation, how competitive a man is, how sexual a man is. That sex and competition is a big part of a man's identity. So when you have these men who become trans, then the cyclists, they have a trans cyclist who's breaking all the women's records.
Or even in high school, you have these transgender boys,
wrestlers. They're
wrestlers.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay,
and these are kids still.
First things first, that is violence on women. Mm-hmm. Physically putting a woman against that boy who's a girl now, that is violence towards women, and that's when you're a minority, they don't care about you. So women need to watch that. Second, how come none of these trans women, the cyclists, how come he ain't picked tennis? How come you ain't got no trans men trying to? Because they know Venus would still beat the shit out of
him.
them.
And don't give me that, like, you don't start making testosterone till bullshit. If a little boy gets an erection, he is making testosterone. So that means that transgender boy has testosterone.
Well, what it means is that we don't know what he's been exposed to.
Yeah.
See, nobody knows what that child's been exposed to chemically or visually or what's been going on. And sometimes it could just be the fact that maybe he really is that way. I get it. But what I'm simply saying is that why are you having a discussion with a 7-year-old or 8-year-old? And how is that any different from that NAMBLA stuff? North American Man Boy Love Association, which I thought was a joke. First time I saw it was on South Park. Yes. One of the people, again, back to the Franklin Credit Union scandal, there were 2 people in Omaha that were arrested other than, of course, Larry King.
Peter Citron.
Yes, Peter Citron, who's a newscaster, and also Andreesen. There's a R.A. Andreesen. Mm-hmm. Guess what? I work with R.A. Andreesen. He's retired now. He is a 500-pound man, 6'8". He had a discussion at work saying that a boy at the age of 6 can consent to sex.
Wow.
Yes. And so when you talk this transgender...
He's a piece of shit.
Yes. And the first time I was aware of this is before I knew about... First things first, if you get that book, you will see his name, R.A. Andreesen. His name is in the book. For Peter Citron, R.A. Andreesen, number 1. Number 2, when he went to jail, when he got out of jail, the union got his job back with back pay. That's how strong... Yeah, that's how strong they were. Last but not least, the first time I found out about him, my best friend, not you, D, my other best friend, I worked with him. I was helping him with his car today. He's white. We got hired together at UP together, and we were working. We working. And he said, "Man, I just see some weird shit in the parking garage." Well, yeah, would you see a car? I'm like, me, because I'm stupid. He's like, "Nah, I parked over here, but then I realized I could get a better parking place, so I back in, and I see that big old dude right there get out the car. Out the corner of my eye, I see something move in his back seat. I'm thinking he brought his dog to work. He said, I look back there, it's like a 15-year-old boy covering himself up with a blanket, sleeping in that man's car. He will go around town and get the street kids and do things to him. Then I was remember there was a strip club called the Bittersweet. So one night I'm walking in and this girl's going off because he had just cussed. I didn't know he had just left. She had just cussed him out. He said, "You see that big dude is here? Is Andreesen dude?" I'm like, she's like, "Yeah, he got a hold of my brother." This is at the bittersweet. Had cussed the dude out. This man.
She white or black?
She was black. She was very black. She's black. And so, like I said, we talk about these attacks on children. We're talking not just about white kids, black kids, girls and boys. We're focusing on black children only because we're black. But the fact is that that's out there, and these kids run away from home early. These kids are leaving the house early. A big part of that is they don't respect their parents. How many women have you dated that don't know how to groom themselves? All right, you got women like, oh, I don't know.
I've never.
No. When I'm not talking about grooming, I'm saying like they don't know how to. You're supposed to right front to back. You'd be surprised how many women are in their 20s don't know that because they left home purely.
I don't date retarded women.
It's not that. What it is that they left because they were in a competition with their mother, whether it's for their father's attention or just for the placement of the house. So they leave, and their moms did not impart the right stuff. People assume you know stuff.
No, you know what, man? Oh, I did date a woman like that.
I'm not talking. I wasn't talking shit. I wasn't talking shit.
No, I know, but like it's not to the point of what you're saying. Like don't know how to wipe. No, I did date a woman.
That was just an example, D.
Yeah, but that's pretty fucking gross. But anyway, I did date a woman that was in direct competition with her mother, but because her mom was rebelling against her own parents so greatly that she raised her children with
same way.
With such disdain, because her mother came from a good household, but she was so rebellious in her parenting that these kids, were on their own.
Yeah, early.
Yes.
Way too early.
Yeah, man. So it's a shame when you see that, though.
Like I said, what we're saying is, don't get me wrong, you got organizations like CPS separating the child, you got TV shows separating the child, you got all these different things, but then you do have parents out there that did not want to be parents, and they resent it, and so they half-ass raise their kid, or they put stuff on their kid that the kid shouldn't even be dealing with mentally, and that stuff is some real deal shit. It's not a joke, and like I said, this. What they back in the day, used to call this a generational curse. It's one of these things that will be plaguing us for years and years. And don't get me wrong, there is racism. There are things that were in place that caused a lot of things. Everything from the education system, the school system, the judicial system, police brutality, all these different things being accused. You have those things out there. I'm not even denying those, but I'm saying that when we named maybe 8 to 9 things that can affect a black child and their family. How they see their family, where they see themselves in the family, and how could that person ever possibly grow up normal? And the thing is, many people don't grow up normal. They learn, they see some other stuff, they realize I can obtain that. It's up to me to fix it. And even when you see these like white guys and you read their autobiography, how many of these motherfuckers were adopted? How many motherfuckers left home at 8 and 9 years old? When you ever hear the story of Cat Williams, he left home at 15, tried to go to the Marines, couldn't. So he doesn't become a pimp. He becomes like a caretaker for hoes. So he would hide in the closet with a gun or whatever while these hoes were doing their job. And then eventually when he turned 17, 18, he went to a couple clubs like Amateur Night and started doing comedy. And he was discovered by Jeff Foxworthy. Snatched him up from the club and took him on the road.
Wow, I didn't know it was Jeff Foxworthy.
Yeah. See, that's
an unknown fact right there. Like, most people don't know that.
When people talk, they talk about this black and white thing. We're people. But the problem is that I love my people, and my issue is that we don't treat ourselves right. We don't treat, and other people treat us wrong. I will stand up for my people all the time, but I love who loves me. Like I told you, one of my good friends, we're tight, and he's white. I got 2 real tight white friends, and they're friends. We're equals. They see me as an equal. I see them as an equal, and we don't fuck with each other. We don't disrespect each other. We might tell a dirty joke here or there, but we don't disrespect each other.
Listen, man, little black kids are up against a whole lot.
Period.
And they need as much help from real fucking people as possible to avoid a lot of these pitfalls. A lot of these pitfalls that are out here with the pedophiles and the criminal justice system and the CPS and all this socialist nonsense that is being soft pedaled to them. They need help against this. So if you are listening to this show and you have a young black kid in your life that you're related to, or you might, have as a neighbor, and if you can help them in any way or just like give them some knowledge, then fucking do it.
Teach them.
But don't be some cuck bystander that does not do anything when you can do something. When you see a little black kid, it just
don't talk shit about them.
You ain't got to fucking rescue them. You know what I'm saying? I'm not asking you to rescue them. All I'm telling you to do is just take some action and talk to kids. And I'm talking to you, you soft motherfuckers who don't make eye contact with people. Well, make eye contact with little kids. Start there, and then you work your way up to adults. But make eye contact with these kids and speak to the kids in your neighborhood so they will know who you are. So they know that you are an adult in the neighborhood and you have their back. All right? So we're going to end it there because I feel like we dropped information and knowledge about the attack on the black child. We out. Peace.